Good day and welcome to today's class. Today's class is a continuation of our previous classes on SS2 Further Mathematics, where we started the first topic, which is on roots of quadratic equation. Under that topic, we had the following objectives, of which the first we said is to find the sum and product of roots of quadratic equation. In order for us to achieve this objective, we started by looking at quadratic trinomial, where I told you that a quadratic trinomial is said to be a quadratic expression with 3 terms. Trinomial means it has 3 terms, and I gave you examples on them, which includes this: 2x squared minus 3x plus 5, of which I told you that the general term of it is said to be ax squared plus bx plus c. This is said to be a quadratic trinomial expression. It is quadratic because the highest power of the unknown is 2, and where a, b, and c are said to be constant, and it is trinomial because it is made up of 3 terms. So we did solve so many examples on that. I gave you examples on it, and we looked at how to factorize quadratic trinomial using factorization method. Where I said in factorization method, factorization method happens to be the opposite of expansion method, because when you expand 2 or more linear expressions, it gives you quadratic expressions. In our algebra in JSS2, we said if you expand a bracket of this form, a plus x into bracket a plus y, it gives you a quadratic expression. For a quadratic expression, is said to be gotten by the product of 2 linear expressions using expansion method. Factorization method happens to be the opposite of expansion method. Using factorization method on quadratic expression, it will give you those 2 linear expressions that when you multiply them together, it gives you the quadratic expression. So factorization method entails you achieving those 2 linear expressions that gave rise to the quadratic expression. And that was what we did at the last class, where we asked to factorize 10x squared plus 17x plus 3. And we were able to factorize it into 2x plus 3 into bracket 5x plus 1. What that means is these 2 linear expressions are what, when multiplied together using expansion method, gave rise to this quadratic expression. So at that class, I gave you so many examples, and I left the class with an assignment where you were asked to factorize the following quadratic trinomial. So before we begin to this class, I shall solve the assignment which I gave you. All you need to do is to compare my answers with yours to see if you have been able to get the answers. So solution number 1, we are asked to factorize x squared minus 4x minus 21. I did explain to you that in order for us to factorize this quadratic expression, if it is a quadratic trinomial, you will discover that there is nothing that is common among the 3 terms. So all you need to do is to express it as a 4-term expression so that you can easily factorize them into 2. So how do you make it a 4-term expression? Now we are going to substitute 2 terms with the middle term, and those 2 terms must meet these 2 conditions. 1, that the product of those 2 terms will be equal to the product of the first term and the last term, and when you add those 2 terms together, it gives you the middle term. So how do we get that? Multiply the first term and the last term together. That gives us minus 21x squared. So we are going to look for 2 terms that when we add them together, it gives us minus 4x, and when we multiply them together, it gives us minus 21x squared. And how do we get that? You have to look at all the 2 factors that when you multiply them together, it gives you minus 21. So we have minus 21 itself, minus 21x, and plus x. We equally have minus 7x and plus 3x. We have, I think these are the only two numbers. So which of these, when you add them together, gives you minus 4x? You discover that this will give you, when you add this together, it gives you minus 20x, and this gives us minus 4x. So invariably, these two factors are said to have met those two conditions I have given. So what do you do with them? You are going to replace them or substitute them with the middle term, which is minus 4x. So this becomes x squared minus 7x plus 3x minus 21. Now, by doing this, it does not change the sense of the expression. For if you add minus 7x plus 3x, it still gives you minus 4x. We have now changed it from a 3-term expression to a 4-term expression. So what we are going to do now is to factorize. We are going to factorize them in twos. Looking at the first two terms, what is common? X is common, so we factorize out x. Divide each of the term by what is common, and what you have will be in the bracket. X squared divided by x is said to be x, and when you divide minus 7x by x, you are left with minus 7. Do same with the next two terms. Looking at plus 3x and minus 21, what is common? You agree with me that plus 3 is common, but there's no x term in 21. 21 is a constant, so x is not common. Do same, divide plus 3x by 3, you are left with x, and when you divide minus 21 by plus 3, you'll be left with minus 7. So I have been able to factorize it from a 4-term expression to a 2-term expression. These are the two terms. This is one, and this is another. But if you look at them, you will discover that what is in the bracket is common in both terms. So you have to factorize it out again to a 1-term expression. So this gives us x minus 7 being common. And when you factorize this first term by x minus 7, you'll be left with x. Do same to this, you'll be left with plus 3. So this we have now factorized into two linear expressions that gave rise to x squared minus 4x minus 21. So these are the two linear expressions that gave rise to that. So what did you do? Did you get the same answer? All right, let's take the second assignment. Solution to number 2. This is 6x squared plus 11x minus 10. We are going to multiply the first and the last term together, and that gives us minus 60x squared. So we are looking for two terms that when you multiply them together, it gives you minus 60x squared, and when you add them together, it gives you plus 11x. So look at those two terms that when you multiply, it gives you minus 60. We have 6 and 10. We equally have 12 and 5. Also, we have 30 and 2. What else? And we have 15 and 4. So, which among these sets of numbers that when we add them together, it will give us plus 11. So if this is positive, 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 and this is negative, because for it to give us minus 60, one needs to be positive and the other needs to be negative. So in this case, if you add up plus 15 minus 4, it gives you 11x, and I think that is the answer. Plus 30 minus 2, you have 28. plus 6 minus 10 will give us minus 4, and plus 2 minus 5 gives us plus 7. So it is only the first term that meets those two conditions. So we are going to substitute it with the middle term. This becomes 6x squared plus 15x minus 4x minus 10. We have now changed it from a 3-term expression to a 4-term expression, which is now easy for us to factorize. So considering the first two terms, 3x is common. So divide 6x squared by 3x, you'll be left with 2x. Divide plus 15x by 3x, you'll be left with plus 5. Do same for the next two terms. When you look at the next two terms, you agree with me that minus 2 is common. So bring out minus 2. Divide the first term by minus 2, you'll be left with 2x. And divide minus 10 by minus 2 gives you plus 5. Now, we then have a 2-term expression, and what we have in the bracket is common. So factorize it out again. This gives you 2x plus 5. And when you factorize out 2x plus 5, from the first term, you'll be left with 3x. And do that for the second term gives you minus 2. So this is said to be the two linear equations that which when multiplied together using the expanded method gives you 6x squared plus 11x minus 10. If you use the reverse method, you arrive at the answer which we refer to as the expanded method, and the opposite of it is said to be the factorization method. So this is the solution to the assignment I gave you at the last class when we treated factorization of quadratic trinomial. Kindly like my videos as you watch. While I recommend that you subscribe to my channel if you are yet to do so, and also follow me on Facebook and on TikTok at My Lesson Teacher. Turn on the notification bell so as to be notified whenever a new video is being uploaded. You can also use the comment section to interact with me on areas that are still difficult for you to understand. While I recommend you share the link with your friends and families so that they can also benefit from my daily classes. So we shall then look at what we have for today.